This
Last session we
conference
were
will now
discussing
be
about scheduling
recorded.
scheduling. So today we will be discussing about the new concept, that is availability check. So in the last session we have discussed like how the system confirming the delivery dates and confirmed quantity into the system, right? So that is through some parameters. So today would be discussing, like, say, once the requirements are transferred to the plant, so how system performs the availability check, in which all areas system performs. So this would be discussing today. So availability check. So what is availability check? It's a processing of check. It's a process of checking the availability of the materials in the plant. So the very important thing you should know is availability check is always plant and material specific. That's very important. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me, everyone? Can someone confirm?
Yes, we can.
Yes, right. Anaga, can you just rejoin? I hope that should fix your issue. Okay. Yeah. So availability check, it's always plant and material specific. This is very important because, say, we will not be maintaining all the materials in all the plants, right? My business might be having 10 plants, but there is a material X which we manufacture and maintain it in only one plant, right? So all the materials may not be available in every plant. So availability check is always plant plus material specific. That means if I create an order for X material, say 100 quantity, in the background system will be performing availability check. What is availability check? System is checking that whether this X material is available in this plant or not, particularly in that plant, right? If material is not available in the plant, later again you can transfer that requirement to another plant, but material will be first checked in that particular plant. So to perform this availability check, that means whenever we create an order in the back end to perform this availability check, that is whether material is available or not, we need to maintain certain prerequisites. Okay, we should maintain some prerequisites to perform availability check. What are the prerequisites? The first prerequisites are, the first prerequisite is, in the material master we need to maintain the checking group. So in the real time availability check is also called as checking group. So if someone is talking about checking group, don't confuse. Availability check is also called as checking group in the real time. So the first thing is you need to maintain the checking group in the material master in under the general plant data, that we have daily requirement and individual requirement, right? So we have two options in this particular group. In the S/4HANA, there is a huge impact on this particular. That is, there is no more daily requirement in S/4HANA. Only one, that is individual requirement. There is no daily requirement in S/4HANA, only individual requirement. And that is a concept called as AATP. Whatever the concept we are discussing now, that is called as ATP. That is available to promise. We sell material on first come first serve basis. Whoever the customer places an order, if material is available, yeah, we just sell it to them. That is ATP, available to promise. That means if material is available, we promise, we sell it, right? So if the new concept in S/4HANA under availability check is AATP, advanced available to promise, right? So the first thing is you need to maintain the checking group in the material master under the plant general data. That's the first thing which we need to maintain. This is the first prerequisite. I'm not repeating this again. What is daily requirement, individual requirement, because we have discussed at the time of middle master. The second prerequisite is in the schedule and category. I showed you, right, what is the difference between the CP and CN. CP means deterministic MRP, CN means no MRP. How system knows that CP is deterministic MRP? That is when you activate this requirement and availability. So in the schedule and category, we need to activate this requirement and availability. And there is another concept called as requirement class. In that also we need to activate requirement and availability. This concept requirement class is the integration between SD and PP module. What is a requirement class? What is a requirement type? See, whenever we create an order, first requirement type should come into sales document. Yeah. So whenever we create an order, see, first thing is, in this concept availability check, we will not discuss much about requirement class because here it's only a prerequisite. But when it comes to a concept that is tomorrow concept, TOR, transfer of requirements, this is a very big concept. Requirement class is a very big configuration. So first thing is how the requirements are transferred to the plant. So I was telling that whenever we create a sales order, X metal 100 quantity, system is first doing the transfer of requirements. That means the requirements are transferred to plant. Then system is performing availability check in the plant. That means whether this X metal is available or not. Whether you perform availability check or not, TOR should mandatorily happen. Okay, TOR should be mandatorily happen. So once you create an order, what happens is first a requirement type will come into sales document. Requirement type will come into sales document. Where requirement type will come into sales document? Under procurement tab. As I told you, this is the integration between SD and PP module. You see this procurement module. Under procurement module, you will see requirement type, right? So whenever you create a sales order, first requirement type should come into sales document. Then this requirement type will help us to determine requirement class. So we'll not discuss more about requirement type and class today because tomorrow we are going to discuss about that anyway in the TOR concept, but I'll just touch and go today. So whenever you create an order, first system will determine requirement type into sales document. Very important interview question. So where can we see requirement type in sales document? This is an interview question. So where do we see it? We see it under procurement tab. So once requirement type is determined, then requirement type will control determining requirement class. Okay, requirement type will determine requirement class. This requirement class will control how the requirement should be performed. That means in which location availability should be performed. Everything that is controlled under the requirement class. It has a lots of configurations that we'll discuss tomorrow, right? But first today you should know that requirement class is one of the parameter to determine availability check. If you want to perform an availability check, there are 4 parameters. Out of the 4 parameters, this is one prerequisite. But how this prerequisite will be determined? That is based on requirement type. Where can you see the requirement type? Under the sales order procurement tab. Okay. The question is, but how this requirement type has come into sales document? How this requirement type has come into sales document? For that, again, there is a criteria. That means on what basis this requirement type should come into sales document. You see CP, deterministic MRP, and you can see ATP, right? So how this particular requirement type has come into sales document, that is up, again, there are some parameter. What is the parameter? You can see the parameters to determine the requirement type into sales document is, first system will check in strategy group MRP3 view. If it is not there, it will go to MRP group. It's not there, then it will go for item category plus MRP type configuration, and the last is item category. So this is the criteria to determine a requirement type into sales document. Once the requirement type comes into sales document, then this requirement type will control what requirement class to be determined. Okay, and this requirement class will control how the availability check should be performed, right? So these all things tomorrow we'll discuss in the TOR concept. It is relevant there, but today you just know that requirement type should first come into sales document under the procurement tab. Then that requirement type will determine requirement class. But requirement class is only a parameter here now, right? So now let's check the configuration. Availability check can be performed two ways. One is ATP logic and the other thing is product allocation. Okay, whatever we would be discussing now, it's only ATP logic, but I recommend you to read product allocation from a document I'll show you, because nowadays they're asking questions. Earlier they don't ask questions on product allocation, but nowadays they're asking questions. And if you see the resume, sample resume also what I have shown, in that we would be clearly mentioning saying that availability check hyphen ATP. If you mention that, your interviewer will pretty much know that what area of availability check you worked. Okay, and see, availability check is a vast, it's not that vast concept, but there are people who is working in availability check since last 5 years, 7 years, only on one concept. SD consultants only on ATP, they are working since last 5 years. They are masters in GATP, global availability promise, GATP in APO module, GATP. They are masters in this topic. So they are working since 5 years, 7 years, like that. Because how better you plan, that better you can keep up the promise to the customer when you will be delivering, right? So availability check can be performed using either ATP logic or product allocation. So ATP we will be discussing, but product allocation, as I was telling you, you just go through this Capgemini material. In the Capgemini material, you have SD product allocation. Go through this document. Okay, so what is product allocation? I'll just tell you. When we discuss Metal Master, I hope I already told you what it is, but I'll get little brief on that, but will not discuss it everything. So the configuration for availability check, it is availability check ATP logic. Just click here. First thing is checking group. As I just told you, checking group is nothing but same availability check field in the Metal Master. In the Metal Master plant general data, you are seeing a field called as availability check. There we are maintaining 01, 02. This is also called as checking group. I just told you, right? In the system, you will see it as checking group. First, you need to define the checking group. So, what is daily requirement and what is individual requirement? Anyone? What is the difference between daily requirement and individual requirement?
Daily requirement means all the sales orders during the day will be cumulated and given as one in report. And
The
individual is
quantity, the desk quantity will be updated in a single line, right? So this is where you will see the change in the S4 HANA as well. As I told you, there is no daily requirement, right? There is only individual requirement. But see, 0102 is only a values. I can copy 01 and I can write it as 29. But how? Just a moment. Just hold on. Sorry. Yeah. What we are discussing. Sorry, my daughter fell from the bed actually. Just a minute. Yeah. We are discussing daily requirement, individual requirement, right? So daily requirement, as I told you, this is what the change you will be seeing. So daily requirement, where is the control? The control is actually in the total sales. So this I can copy 01 to something else and I can write something else, right? But the control is in the total sales. B means total sales, right? A means single records. That means individual requirement, right? So this is what is controlling, telling system that you should behave it as a daily requirement or individual requirement. And if you go for S4 HANA, even for this 01, you will see A here. And the other change is, you see, this is the last field here, right? But in S4HANA, you'll have one more option saying that whether you want to go for AATP, that means available to promise. So whatever the ATP we are discussing now today in the ECC, that is called as classic ATP. And this classic ATP works very perfect in the S4HANA as well. But if a client requirement has advanced available to promise, then you come here and you activate the AATP, that is advanced available to promise. Okay, so this is the first thing. So you don't need to do anything here, because in the real time we don't change the checking groups. It will be same. We don't change this. And if you don't want to perform availability check, then you go for no check. You see this KP, no check. So only for KP this no check will be activated. Okay, so this is what first checking groups, and you don't need to do anything here. Just only know that what is total sales and how it is controlling to behave it as a daily requirement or individual requirement.
Sir, excuse me, Shashank this side.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shashank.
So there was one field which was saying block quantity requirement, and it was checked.
Where?
This, sir. Yes, it is.
This one. Okay, just a moment. Let us see what exactly it is. Block the material which is only in place during the availability check. Yeah. Let's say that if you are performing, let's say that there is 100 quantity in the plant. Okay. And you are creating 3 orders. When you are performing availability check at one order, you need to block that quantity. If not, what happens? System will confirm all the 3 orders, but material is only 100, right? That comes in the next step. In the next step, we have that a block quantity. So this one, material block for other users. Here we maintain it, or else you can maintain it there. So what does this material block quantity control is? Let's say we have only 100 quantity in the plant. Okay, only 100 quantity in the plant. And there are 3 users who are creating orders. User 1, user 2, user 3. X material 100 quantity. And all the requirement is also X material 100 quantity. Now for which sales order system should confirm this 100 quantity? It doesn't mean that user 1 means it should confirm it to user 1, right? So in the RDBMS concept, what happens is whichever the order touches the server first, whether it can be user 1, user 2, user 3, doesn't matter. Whichever the order touches the server first, system will confirm for that particular sales order and put a block for other users. Because if not, what happens? Even though we don't have quantity, system will confirm for these orders also, right? So system will put a block for other orders, so that there will not be any confusion. That will be happen with this particular for the requirement. You can either activate here or you can activate it there, right? There are some global activations, or else you can do it individual level. Then next, define checking group for default value. See, whenever you create a material master, did you maintain that particular availability check field as 01, 02, or system is picking up automatically? Anyone? Are we maintaining this? No, right? System automatically picks up in the material master. How it's happening? It's happening because of this configuration. That is, here you are telling system that if my material is this, sorry, material type, if it is finished goods, and if this is the plant, I want it to be 01 all the time, or 02 all the time. So that you mention here, you see, with the material type finished goods, FERT, and your plant, you are telling system, I want 01 all the time. So that's the reason whenever you create material master, by default in the checking group field, system shows 01. Why system is showing that? Because here you mentioned saying that your plant and material type combination. The next, carryout control. This is the actual crux of the availability check concept. Very important T code, OVZ9. OVZ9 with a combination of checking group and checking rule. What is checking group? Anyone?
Availability check, we also call checking group.
What is checking group? Checking group is where whether it's a daily requirement or individual requirement, right? That means you want to perform availability check with a daily requirement or individual requirement. Checking rule controls that where you want to perform. See, in some scenarios, we should also perform availability check at the delivery level, right? What is that scenario? Any one scenario?
STO, delivery agreement.
STO, delivery scheduling, adding a quantity or increasing a line item quantity, right? That is controlled with a checking rule. Checking group tells that whether you want to go for daily requirement, individual requirement. Checking rule tells system that whether you want to go for sales order, that means you want to perform availability check at the order level or delivery level. Order level or delivery level is controlled by checking rule, right? So with this combination, with the combination of checking group and checking rule, there are lots of control here. This is how the availability check is performed. The T code is OVZ9. See, whenever you create an order, from which stock you sell to the customer, returns, unrestricted, or from where you sell it, we always sell it from unrestricted stock, right? We always sell to the customer from unrestricted stock. But there might be some scenario in the business. Now you need to sell goods from safety stock. Okay, you want to sell goods from safety stock. So what you do, you come here and you activate it here. So this fields control that where you want to perform availability check. By default, always system performs availability check in the unrestricted stock, but you have some stocks like safety stock, stock in transfer, quality inspection stock, blocked stock, restricted stock, right? So if you want to perform availability check in these areas, what you do with this combination, you come and you maintain this, right? So this you will be controlling, maintaining only in the special cases when you want to include the availability check even in these areas also. Then only you come and activate here. If not, generally they will not be active. Okay, in general they will not be active. You come here and you do it only when you want it.
Sir,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you. But what is this blocks? What's the difference between this block stock and restricted use stock? I mean, the both are for the same
No,
thing.
there would be a difference for blocked stock. Blocked stock means it can be blocked for different reasons. Okay, uh, it can be blocked temporary because of some quality issues. After quality issues, again you can sell it, or it has been blocked because it is close to expiry stock. That means the expiry date is about to expire. Because if you go to some stores, there will be a counter which was selling products for 50%, 70% discount. Why? Because those products are going to expire within 2 or 3 months, right? So the blocked stock is stocked temporarily, but later you can release it. Restricted use stock is only for couple of materials. It's not applicable for every material. Let's see, batch should include, yeah, they haven't mentioned for restricted use what exactly it is, but restricted stock is applicable for only some materials. It's not applicable for every material, but blocked stock can be applicable for any material, right? So RLT, replenishment lead time. If material is not available, you want to perform RLT and confirm in future date whether you want to have RLT or not. In the last session we discussed, right? That is check without RLT. That means if material is not available, I just want to drop the order. I don't want to go for forward scheduling. That is through this control check without RLT. I don't want RLT, right? Then next is in what all other areas you want to perform availability check. Okay, so what all other areas I want to perform availability check against purchase order. That means my let's business has raised a purchase order to vendor for X material 1000 quantity. In meantime, I received a sales order for X material 100 quantity. So whether you want to perform now availability check against this purchase order, you activate this. Include purchase orders. That means when you are doing availability check, you also do availability check against purchase orders also, because you send the purchase orders, but you are expecting the stock inside the plant, right? So include purchase orders, purchase requisitions, include sales delivery. That means order created but not yet delivered, right? Even those, that means see, you take low priority customer orders. We create order, we confirm the quantity, but we don't immediately do an order, right? What we do, we cancel the quantities and we can give it to the high priority customers. So in that open orders and open deliveries also, if you want to perform availability check, then include these all things. And what more? Planned orders, production orders, right? Against this all also you can control, saying that where all you want to perform availability check. By default, always availability check will be performed in unrestricted stock, but you can tell system to perform in all these areas whenever it's needed, right? So this is what we have in the controls OVZ9, right? These are the this will be obviously included, but we should be very careful where you are including these planned orders and production orders, because there is no guarantee that a plan will be converted into production, right? You have taken a decision to manufacture something on next month 15th, but by the time demand has been gone or government has put ban on that product, it can be anything, right? So whenever you're confirming orders against the planned order, you should be cautious, because plan cannot be executed as a production. Okay, so that's in the OVZ9. Then next is define procedure for requirement class. We just discussed that requirement type and requirement class, requirement class is a prerequisite. You need to only activate it here. In the availability check concept, you only need to activate. Where we are activating, maintaining this prerequisite? Here. Sorry. This one. You select a requirement class. Okay, what is the requirement class for different scenarios? We'll discuss tomorrow. Make to order, IPO, and make to stock, that we'll discuss tomorrow. But here you need to activate availability check and requirement. This is the prerequisite. And another prerequisite, you see, what is another prerequisite? In the schedule line also, you should activate requirement and availability. Here you select your schedule line and you can activate. This is a global activation. If you activate here, automatically it will be activated in the schedule lines. So select your CP or whatever the schedule line and activate it. If you also want to include product allocation also, then you need to activate this. This is product allocation. This is okay. What is the difference between product allocation and these things? I'll tell you so that you have clarity. See, ATP logic means, as I told you, available to promise. That is first come first serve. We have quantity. It is selling from the stock. This scenario is make to stock, selling from the stock. Okay, we have 1,000 quantity available. Whoever the customer place an order, we'll give it for him on first come first serve. That is ATP logic. Product allocation is applicable for production critical materials. That means your plant capacity is you can manufacture only X material 100 quantity per day. Okay, either for production critical materials or newly launched products. When a car manufacturing company launches a new car, it will have a limited production capacity, right? Because they need to start production. So what they do, 6 months before itself, they'll start taking the bookings and they'll start manufacturing, right? So whenever you're launching a new product or production critical materials, what you need to do is you need to cater all your customers. If some customer comes and tells that I have lots of money, I'll buy every material. No, you cannot do that, because you need to take care of every customer. So what you do, let's say you are manufacturing 1,000 quantity every day. You can tell system dealers will get 300 quantity out of 1,000 quantity, whatever you are manufacturing every day. Distributors will get 300. Institutional customers will get 200, and government customers will get 200. So if a dealer place an order, system will sell only from this 300 quantity. If this 300 is completed, that's it. Dealer orders will not be delivered for that day, right? This is product allocation. That means allocating the stock to customers or customer groups. Okay, you allocate some stock and only from that stock you sell to that particular customers in that particular groups, right? This is product allocation. So if you want to include product allocation also, that means you want to perform availability check in product allocation also, then you activate this. And the next prerequisite is delivery procedure for each delivery. Okay, at the item category. You remember at the time of OVLP delivery at the item level controls, we have discussed that whether to perform availability check at the delivery or not. And I also told you, I guess, right? This field is coming from somewhere else. Later we'll discuss. This is what. That means select your item category and you control whether system should perform availability check at the delivery level or not. You put X, system will not perform the availability check. If you put you leave it blank, system will perform availability check. If you put X, system will not perform availability. Anyone you remember this? At the OVLP we discussed this availability check off.
Yes, buddy.
Yeah, from this configuration it is getting reflected there in the delivery item category. This particular we'll discuss tomorrow along with the back orders. We'll discuss along with the TOR concept. But the last configuration setting here in the availability check now it is define default settings. We maintain this with the combination of sales area. With the combination of sales area, you can control fixed date and quantity. That means whenever we are creating an order, we are creating an order under sales area, right? Under a sales area, we create an order, right? So if I'm creating an order under this sales area, for that particular sales area combination, if you put fixed quantity and date, user cannot change the date and quantity. Okay, user cannot change the date and quantity in the orders which is created under this sales area. Okay, that is fixed date and quantity. And the last field is availability check rule. You might have already faced this. Let me just show you just a moment, because this will be triggered only when the materials are not available. So in this system, materials are available. So let me open that image from Google and show you. Some of you might have already seen it. Yeah, so have anyone seen this image? When you're creating a sales order, at any time system has popped up a message like this.
Yes, buddy.
Yes, right? So when system will pop up these kind of messages, when in case of shortages, that means if materials are not available at this moment, then system will give you controls what you want to do. Whether you want to check whether the materials are available in other plants, or scope of check. That means system will take you to OVZ9, then you control there. Okay, go and check in safety stock against production order, against planned order. You can control with scope of check, right? Or else you can see here the requested quantity is 9045, but confirmed is 9042. Okay, you want to go with only 9042, say okay, system will go ahead, right? So how this pop-up is coming up, that means whenever there is shortages, materials are not available, how system is showing this pop-up window? That is through this field availability check rule. This availability check rule says that dialog box in case of shortages. That means if materials are not available, show the dialog box, right? So rule for transferring the results of availability check. If it's not available in one area, if you want to perform the availability check in other area, how you want to transfer, that is controlled from this, right? So this is what about the availability check concept. If you want to see availability check everything in one screen, there is a T code called as CO09, like MD04. CO09 transaction will show you what order, what quantity, and everything. So material, let's say 100, 200, plant is 1000, right? So here you can see for which sales order, what quantity is consumed, what is the checking group, what is the checking rule, everything you can see here. It's a simple like MD04, right? So this is all about the availability check concept. So any questions?
Praveen, this availability check with respect to ATP and product allocation, can they both be maintained at the same time?
Absolutely. You have an option, right? First you check, perform availability check, then go to product allocation. Okay. So you can see here, it is a compact CD manufacturing company. Your capacity is 10,000 numbers. So sales organization 1,000, 7,000 is reserved from 10,000, and sales organization 2,100, 300, 3,000 pieces is reserved. Again, under sales organization 1,000, out of this 7,000, customer A will get 2,000, customer B will get 1,000, and customer C will get 1,000. So there's a hierarchy here. So that's how the product allocation is done. As I told you, first system will perform availability check, that is ATP logic available to promise, then you can push it to the product allocation. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, hope so no questions. We'll call it a day today and catch up tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll discuss TOR. So this delivery scheduling, availability check, and TOR, altogether this is a single concept, but we are discussing as an individual concept so that we can better learn it. Right? So see you all and catch up tomorrow, everyone. Good day.